So I know you've also talked about $10,000. What time frame do you see? And do you see that in today's money? Because people say, well, that's with inflation. I actually see it in today's money, the $10,000.
Right. I agree with that. Let me explain, first of all, where the $10,000 comes from, and then we'll talk about the timing of this. It's not a made-up number. I didn't pick a big number to get headlines or attract attention. You know, you don't need that. But it's actually the implied non-deflationary price. And what I mean by that, just take the money supply. So global M1, it's a technical name, but that's sort of money in checking accounts and money in people's pockets. Back it with 40% gold. And 40%, historically, that's a pretty high number. In the 19th century, England backed their gold supply or their money supply with 20%. In the 20th century, the U.S. had about 40%. So take 40%. So take the official gold in the world, about 35,000 tons. Take M1, which we know, you can look that up in central bank websites. Take 40% of that and just divide, and you come out to $10,000 an ounce. That's the price that gold would have to be to restore confidence in the monetary system without causing deflation. You could have it at $1,000 an ounce, but that would be, you'd have to destroy the money supply to maintain the parity. That would be extremely deflationary. It would be a repeat of the Great Depression. Nobody wants that. Monetary experts understand this. So when I say $10,000 an ounce, you're right, that's in today's dollars. If you had a collapse of confidence in the dollar now, timing, it could happen tomorrow. I'm not saying it will happen tomorrow. It could be a year from now or 2 years from now. But the conditions are present. It's like an avalanche. You know, you see the snow building up. We're here in the Alps in Switzerland. The snow's building up. One snowflake comes along. It disturbs a few others. Eventually, it gains momentum and causes an avalanche. Could happen yesterday, today, or tomorrow. You don't know when, but you can see the conditions. The conditions for the collapse of confidence in paper money are already there. This could happen tomorrow.
No, I agree totally with that. And sadly, it is not, you know, you talk so much about not just the supply and demand, which of course we know that the futures exchanges, the interbank market, which is also all paper, and we know that there is only a fraction of physical gold for the amount of paper outstanding. At some point, that market will blow up. And of course, my view is that we will get hyperinflation. I don't think governments will actually be able to do, they have no tools available. Of course, printing money is not a solution.
Right.
If you print worthless pieces of paper, you're not going to create wealth.
Correct.
But they still will do it because they don't know anything else to do now. The US, in my view, will lower interest rates again. And maybe go to negative one day, and the dollar will fall, and then gold will start going up. But so it's not only just the supply and demand situation, you have also most of the major nations in the world are bankrupt. And the financial system hasn't been mended since 2007-9.
Correct.
So therefore, you know, we could get to a situation when a lot of money is printed. And you are getting into the hyperinflationary scenario. That, I think, in my view, to cover the 230 trillion debt outstanding in the world, which is not going to be repaid, in my view, and the derivatives of 1.5 quadrillion, whatever, there's a risk that a lot of money will be printed that will destroy the value of paper money and therefore be reflected in gold and silver.
That's absolutely right, Egon. In fact, a lot of money has been printed already, and we haven't seen that much inflation. So people say, see, you can print all the money you want and don't have to worry about inflation. But there's something missing in that analysis, which is you need two things to cause inflation. One is printing money, but the other one is what's called the velocity or the turnover of money. People have to, when they lose confidence in it, they're like, well, you can pay me in dollars, but I want to dump the dollars and, you know, and buy some gold or buy some silver, as the case may be. So it's when people start spending the money, dumping the money, trying to buy things because they think the price is going up, losing confidence. That's when prices soar, and that's a psychological phenomenon. So it takes two things. One is the money printing, which we've already seen, and we're going to see more, I agree with that. The other one is this loss of confidence when people dump the money. That's when the velocity or the turnover takes off. You can have hyperinflation almost overnight.
In my view, there's a high risk of that. So that's the first stage that, as I see it, in the next X years. You don't know. It could go very quickly, or it could take. But I don't think we're talking about more than 5 years, in my view.
Well, I think that's right. The other thing I say to investors is, you know, what are you waiting for? Maybe it is 3 years or 4 years. It may not be that long. It could be tomorrow. But when it happens, it's going to happen very quickly. It'll actually be too late to get the gold. I see a time, because of the fundamental supply-demand shortages. You know, I talked to a major refiner. He said, you know, Jim, if I didn't know you, if you were a new customer and you called up, I wouldn't return your call. If I didn't know you, if you weren't already a good customer, we don't want new business. We have more business than we can handle. We don't have enough gold that we can refine. So these shortages of physical gold are already popping up. When there's a buying panic, when there's hyperinflation, when this starts to take off, and it'll take off very quickly, and people say, you know what, I don't trust my bank paper gold contract anymore. I call up, and I say, give me the physical gold. There's only about 1 ton of gold for every 100 tons of claims. 99% of those people are going to find out they don't own gold. They're going to get a check in the mail, and they're going to miss out on the spike in prices.
That could happen faster than we would like, and of course it'll be a catastrophe for the world. The end game, if there is an end game, there is never an end game, because the world goes on. Whatever happens, the world will go on, of course, just maybe at a different pace and at a different standard of living than we've seen now. The last 100 years have not been real anyway. It's been created, fake prosperity created by central banks, and sadly that will come to an end. But after the hyperinflation, which is not going to solve anything, I still see a deflationary implosion, because that's the only way that debt can disappear. Do you agree with that?
Well, there are 2 ways to get rid of debt. One is, three ways actually. One is growth, but we're not getting the growth, unfortunately. Printing money will not give you growth, so take that off the table. The other 2 are just default, like I'm just not going to pay you. It's an outright default. The other way is highly inflationary, which is, sure, I'll pay you the $1 trillion I owe you, but good luck buying a loaf of bread because I printed the $1 trillion. That's what the U.S. is going to do to China. By the way, that's one of the reasons the Chinese are stockpiling thousands of tons of gold. Yeah. They know the United States is going to inflate their way out of it. They can't dump those treasury bills that they own, or those treasury notes that they own, because the market's not that deep. So if you're stuck with the treasury notes and you know the U.S. is going to inflate them and you can't dump them, what can you do? Well, you can buy gold. And now you have a hedge position. You hope for a stable dollar, in which case the gold won't do very much. But you know the U.S. is going to destroy the value of the dollar, in which case the gold will go up. So you'll lose on the paper side, but you'll make it up on the gold side. I always say, if it's good enough for China, it's good enough for me.
Yeah. Well, I fear that any government paper will be worthless in the next few years, but we shall see. But in the meantime, this is not an investment. We both agree on that.
It's money.
This is money. This is real money. But it's also more. It's insurance.
That's right.
And it's the only insurance you can buy where you don't have to renew the premium every year.
That's right. And you also don't have to worry. When you buy insurance, I happen to be a lawyer in addition to being an economist. Yeah. And when I tell people they get insurance and they say, well, I'm protected. And I say, well, how good is the insurance company? Look what happened to AIG. It was one of the biggest insurance companies in the world, and they almost went bankrupt in 2008. So your insurance policy is only as good as the company that writes it. Yeah. With gold, you have insurance, but there is no insurance company. You're holding the gold. You don't have to worry about who's standing behind it because you have it in your hands.
Right, as long as you keep it in places like this,
safe
outside
storage.
The system,
Absolutely.
Outside of the bank.
Don't put it in the bank.
No.
Right.
Jim, it's a real pleasure to see you here
Great seeing you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.